Doing out there in listening land. Uh, I'd like to welcome you to the Common Sense with Conn call-in radio talk show on KTEM 1400 on your AM dial. This is Conn, and our guest here is Tina. She's going to help me talk about all this stuff today. And Eric is here also. He's over here operating that computer board. So if y'all have any questions for us, we'll pick up the phone and call. The call-in number here is 254-773-1400. That's 773-1400. Y'all pick up the phone and call if there's something you want to talk about.
Where in the world would you even begin to start this week?
Yeah, there is so much to talk about that we don't know where to start. You know, the immigration issue, the Democrat socialist woman winning the race for representative in New York, or at least winning the primary. Now, that's not the general, that's the primary. But she unseated a 10-term Democrat.
Yeah, fourth in line to the...
Yeah, is right behind Nancy Pelosi in becoming Speaker of the House.
And you know she's being mentored by Thomas Lopez Perrier, I think it is. That he's a well-known anti-Semite and a racist, and he's full of slurs against the Jews and black New Yorkers.
Well, and we need to realize that she proposes to be a Democrat socialist.
Her platform's lovely.
What was Adolf? You remember what old Adolf was? I think he was a Democrat socialist. The same thing. So are we wanting to turn toward that with our politics in America?
Haven't we already turned toward that?
Well, it's just amazing how far down the wrong road we have traveled in this country.
Well, what's also amazing is the fact that this girl that's barely out of diapers in comparison to the rest of the political world, nobody knew who she was. When she won the primary, she shocked them so bad that nobody on the Democratic or the DNC even had any contact information for her. Then suddenly, the very next day, everybody was falling into her platform and utilizing it and propagating it. Before that, they were staying away from most of those things. And that's just incredibly strange to me how she can have that much clout.
Well, but what kind of explains it to me is I'm old enough to remember the movements in the 70s. I'm old enough to remember when a fellow named Abbie Hoffman was touring the campuses and telling young people in college to never trust anybody over 30. And he was a real radical activist. And you think about it, the people he was advising back in the 70s are now teaching in those universities. So here we have some people that think the only smart people are those that are under 30. She is like 28 years old. And I'm sure there are other young 28-year-olds that want to listen to what she has to say, not realizing what she is and what she stands for.
Well, it's kind of funny that it's not really funny, it's scary, that she's won the primary, and now all of a sudden she's looking toward the presidency.
Yeah.
That's in less than 4 days?
Yeah, well, it's all that experience that qualifies her to be president.
Or whoever is pushing her, and whatever her pocketbook is, whoever holds the strings on that.
But before we laugh at her lack of experience, let's think back a few years when a fellow ran for president, and his vast experience was that of a community organizer, and he became president. While we laughed at his the possibility of him being the President of the United States, we laughed at someone becoming president who had been campaigning on fundamentally transforming America. In other words, destroying what America is and remaking it. We laughed about that.
Well, and you need to take her seriously because just like him, he was slick. He's a minority, he's black male. He looked as though he had come up and made it through all the obstacles in life. So she is female. She is Hispanic, and I don't remember. She's Latin, I guess, and she's young. She's exuberant. She's wide-eyed, which they show those pictures all the time. She has a lot of energy, and somebody is her puppet master. And that puppet master is experienced, even though she may not. She may just be a really good puppet. And that's a good she's a marketing campaign is what she is.
Well, and we tend to discount that as a possibility. Like I say, we discounted Barack Obama also, but he won and became president and did his damnedest to destroy the country. Now, a lot of people will disagree with that statement I just made, but I said before his campaign that he was a communist and a Muslim, and I will continue to say that because everything he did while in office proved me to be right. What countries did he help? Let me see. He helped Cuba, a communist country.
Iran.
He helped Iran, a Muslim country. He supplied all the military equipment for ISIS to take over in Iraq. Now, lest you think I'm crazy, when he withdrew all of our troops and left all of the military equipment, that was no different than just donating them the military equipment that they used to take over in Iraq.
During World War I and II, if they couldn't haul it out, they destroyed it. Not this time.
Yeah, and this time he left it all there. Didn't destroy anything, didn't move anything home. People say, well, they couldn't physically move it home. Well, they physically moved it over there. Why couldn't they physically move it home?
Besides all the technology that they left.
Yeah, it's see, they used to call that aiding and abetting the enemy.
Exactly.
It's no different to the past Democrat president, a fellow named Bill Clinton. He seemed to help our enemies. But before that, before Obama left all the equipment in Iraq, he gave 2,500 guns to our enemy called the drug cartel in Mexico. I think, would that be considered aiding and abetting the enemy? That's what they used to call it. Now I'm not sure what you call it.
Well, I do think they're enemy of the states now, the cartels, because they're the ones pushing and putting all the money behind all these rallies and the whole campaign. That's the word I'm looking for, is the whole campaign about the separation of families. That's been going on for years and years and years, but this is working in their favor, just like getting all the marijuana legislation passed and trying to make it legal. It's because they put all and I'm not for this. I'm not for the marijuana being, legal, but they put all the little growers out, all the local growers out of business, and they came in and took over everything, and they're the ones growing here legally, and so they don't have to transport it. They have it right here in the United States.
Well, and let me say this about marijuana. I know nothing about marijuana. I don't know anything about it, but I will say that I have probably seen more people severely addicted to cigarettes than I have those addicted to marijuana. The difference may be I'm not sure what a marijuana does to you, but I do remember here a couple of years ago that some folks in Florida were on marijuana. One of them in particular was on the side of the interstate eating the face off of a man on the side of the interstate.
That was marijuana laced
with
marijuana bath salts and stuff,
laced with bath salt or something. But my
point is, you
never
know what you're buying.
You don't know what you're buying, and when they are so anxious to get marijuana, what if it's got bath salt in it? Well, after that highway patrolman shot and killed that fella, eating the other man's face,
because he had no choice.
Then after that, a couple of folks in New York or somewhere killed their roommate and ate them, and somewhere else did the same thing. And then as close to us as Waco, Texas, a man woke up to barking in the neighbor's yard, and his neighbor was out there on his hands and knees barking and howling and eating his dog. It turned out that he was on marijuana laced with bath salt or whatever they lace it with. I don't know. But I'm just saying, all these things may sound innocent, may sound good and peaceful, and maybe it's not. So, at any rate, I'm not sure what kind of mentality it takes to promote that kind of thing, but
Well, to me, all of these little details, all these little frayed threads of our culture are really, we need to look past those, not get caught up in them, because I think we need to keep the focus on what's really, really happening here, which is the Communist Party growing very, very strong and silent in the corners of our life. And don't you have the manifesto?
yes, let me thank once again our good friend Cal, who has passed away. He brought a copy of the 10 rules of the Communist Party to called the Rules of Revolution to be used in America. Just for example, and I won't go through all of them, but number one rule of the Communist Party. Number one, corrupt the young. Get them away from religion. Get them interested in sex. Make them superficial. Destroy their ruggedness. Look at that phrase, destroy their ruggedness. Are we raising young men, young boys, to be men?
You mean not to be men?
Are we raising young boys to be girly men? I don't know, but the destroy their ruggedness part of that is coming true as we speak. Number two.
Okay, so what does that mean? Define that. That means, breed out the resistance.
Exactly. And breed out that mental state that makes men stand up and defend freedom.
And it doesn't have to be a male. It can be a female as well.
It could be a male or a female. It can be a black, a white, or an Asian, or whatever.
Breed out resistance.
But if you breed into people the acceptance of communist rule, where's that road take us? Number two in this list of rules: get control of all means of publicity. The media. Tune on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. Tune it in and see if number two on the list has already been accomplished.
Associated Press.
That's,
PBS.
Yeah. Turn your TV on and watch the news.
You've got a handful, part of Fox, and Mark Levin's network, and Newsmax?
Yeah, you've got
what
a
else is out
small
there?
portion, but look at the percent of negative statements about Donald Trump compared to the percent of positive statements. It's overwhelmingly negative about Donald Trump, freedom, Constitution, etc. Number three, get people's minds off of their government by focusing their attention on athletics, sexy books, and other trivialities. And we add to that, such as cell phones. Get people's minds off of government by focusing their attention on athletics, sexy books, trivialities, and cell phones. Look at the average American today. He can't live 3 minutes without pulling out his cell phone to watch.
Over 2,000 times per day.
Yeah.
The average individual touches his cell phone.
Number four, divide the people into hostile groups by constantly harping on controversial matters.
Well, they got that one down, didn't they?
Abolish ICE. Create more victims.
Black Lives Matter.
I am so tired.
Non-blacks don't matter.
Yeah, I am so tired of hearing about victims. I could just scream. All of a sudden, we've got black victims, we got cop victims, we got farmer victims, we got fireman victims, we got all kinds of victims. What about just the average hard-working blue-collar American male? Is he a victim? He's the only thing out there that's not a victim. At any rate, some of these things, as I read this list of goals of the Communist Party, what strikes me is they've already accomplished this. That is really scary. When you read this list of goals and then you apply it to today's America, they're winning. Nikita Khrushchev stood before the United Nations, took his shoe off, and pounded the podium and said, "We will take America and never fire a shot." Well, was he right? Read this list of the 10 goals of the Communist Party and tell me, was he wrong or was he right? Did he call the shot? Yes, he called the shot. Number 5, destroy the people's faith in their natural leaders by holding the latter up to contempt, ridicule, loss of respect, criticism, damage of one's reputation, verbal abuse of a person. Think about what they're doing right now to Donald Trump and to his associates. I guess if you just walk in and say hello to Donald Trump this morning, according to Maxine Waters, I guess you should be denied food in a restaurant. You should be denied gasoline at the service station. All
also,
that kind
Cory
of stuff.
Brooker, isn't that his name? Brooker?
Yeah.
Brooker? And then Ellis. I think they all are on the same page.
Well, yes, it's really frightening, if you will, to read this list of 10 goals and then just check off how many they have already accomplished. That's something. Now, what I did, I took a copy of this and went down. I had 50 copies made of it, and I'm going to pass those 50 copies out to anybody that wants one, because you've heard about these things all your life, but you've never been able to sit down and read it.
Well, and I'll post them on your Facebook page again.
Oh, yes, please do. Please do.
That's Common Sense Con on Facebook. We're about up on a break here.
Yeah, we got to go to a break, try to pay a few bills around here. Y'all don't go away. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a minute. Talk to 'em, Bob. Help 'em play that old boot scooting music. Some of that old Texas swing music.
I think you got a phone call already.
Born and bred in Texas kind of music. But if we got a phone call now, somebody's going to tell us what we need to be talking about. Yes, caller, go ahead.
Yes, good morning to you, or yeah, evening now. But I will probably make you mad today.
Okay, there you go.
Marijuana is nothing compared to these painkillers these doctors are putting out and destroying lives.
Well, you know, what makes me wonder is about all these mass shootings, and now with a mass shooting, they commit suicide. And just turn your TV on and watch the ads for some kind of medicine to help you with your sore knee or your backache or whatever it might be, and almost every one of those disclaimers says may cause suicidal tendencies. Is there any connection between these drugs that they're selling and some of the mass killings? I think it's a good question. You know.
Yeah, I just I don't know. It seems like it's gone from cocaine to heroin to.
Well, I think we're losing you. But anyway, thank you for the call, because now you got me thinking about prescription medicine and is that connected to some of these shootings and killings? I don't know, but I think it's something we ought to look at, because it is not normal for someone like in Las Vegas to kill as many people as he can kill and then commit suicide. You know, there's something not right here.
I just don't buy that whole Las Vegas story at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about that Las Vegas shooting. That's Tucker Carlson has had some things on about that here lately. I did not see it, but Tina's talking about it.
They had one snippet of just, I think, the facility guards and some police officers that were up in the stairwell between 32 and 31 that were just sitting there with their weapons drawn but doing nothing for minutes and minutes and minutes. And so supposedly there's a lot more video snippets that have been coming out because I think a judge ordered it, but I haven't had the chance to go and go look them up.
Well, there's just an awful lot of questions about things like that. You know, if that is true, if there was people standing outside with a gun drawn but not going in, look at what happened in Annapolis, Maryland. They solved that problem in 60 seconds. But there were some officers there in Annapolis that apparently they were not afraid to go in. They were there to do their job, what they were hired to do, and that is go in and stop the bad guy. Now they got it done in 60 seconds. That's pretty quick, folks. But compare that to other situations like in Florida at the high school where I think there was 4 deputy sheriffs or police officers that just stood outside until the shooting stopped. Well, what did we see in Columbine High School many years ago? We saw the SWAT team show up and stand outside the building until the shooting stopped.
So is it cowardice or is it policy?
Well, I don't know.
Rick's on the phone.
Yeah, Rick's on the phone. Rick, go ahead.
Maybe he'll tell us.
Good afternoon. Anyway, you know, that Annapolis thing, I got a couple of things to talk about real quick. I'll try to be as brief as possible.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, that Annapolis thing is another example of how the court system failed those poor people. That guy was stalking some poor woman, and it got so bad that she had to move several times, and he somehow found her every time she moved. And I think he was originally charged with some kind of felony, but he pled to a misdemeanor assault charge or something like that, and they gave him 1.5 years probation.
Okay, I got a question for you, Rick.
Mm-hmm.
As that guy was stalking her, where was her father? Where was her uncle? Where was her grandfather? Where was her neighbors? I guess I'm just old-fashioned, Rick, but
that's a good question. But anyway, then later, a newspaper reporter in the area told the story of this woman and how this guy tormented her. And the guy sued the newspaper and for defamation of character. He lost. Then he appealed and lost again. Okay, then he started sending death threats to the newspaper. And the police were called, and they mutually decided that they weren't going to do anything about it. And then here comes this guy with a long rifle and shoots, and he barricades the back door and shoots 5 people and kills them. And the guy that wrote the story wasn't even working there anymore. And it's just, there's something wrong there. That guy should have been in prison after what he was doing to that poor lady. And it just shows you that sometimes our justice system just doesn't work, because maybe this guy was I think he was just evil. You know, he wasn't one of these idiots that, I mean, not idiots. He wasn't wasn't one of these poor people that had mental problems and they put him on these psychotropic drugs that cause suicidal tendency. I think he was just plain evil. And then to make it even worse, right after the shooting happens, the press are accusing the president of causing it. They're saying, "You did this. You caused this."
You know, what an idiot. You know, it's, you know, that, oh, Rick, you done got me started.
How do they even tie that back to Trump?
Well, they will blame, they'll blame a tornado on Donald Trump or a flooding, or, you know, these people are crazy.
He said the press is the enemy of the people, and they still can't get over that. That the news media, you know, the fake news media is, and that is true. If you say fake things that aren't true to the American people, are you their friend?
Yeah, but they don't want to hear truth anymore, Rick. They want to hear sensationalism and emotionalism and stuff like that.
Well, they want to pick everything apart so they can use it as a tool.
But
before I go, okay, go ahead.
Well, my question is still there. Whatever happened to kinfolks and neighbors and good people in the community that would go knock on that guy's door and say, "You're not going to do that anymore, son. We're not going to have that here."
Because the consequences for them is much more severe than what they are for him.
Well, then we got something wrong with our system. You know.
Okay, I know I don't have much time, so I want to get to this one thing real quick about how you know, this communist rules for revolution and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what we're dealing with the left, the hatred that they have for the Constitution and things like that. I'll give you a quick example before I hang up. Back in the 70s, Bob Dylan became a Christian. He suddenly started making Christian albums. He made about 3 of them. And he was a guest on Saturday Night Live during that period. And I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe they thought he was going to sing something like that he wrote a long time ago, but he went on there and he sang one of his Christian songs. They spat on him. They ridiculed him. They didn't show it on TV, but when he walked out of that place, they were spitting on him, ridiculing him. It's amazing the hatred that you can cause the left if you're not careful.
Well, but I'm not trying to incite riot or anybody do something wrong, but I'll never forget him interviewing General Schwarzkopf when he came back from Vietnam. And at that time, there was a lot of people...
From Vietnam or Kuwait?
Yeah, they were saying bad things about our soldiers coming back from Vietnam.
Okay.
And a reporter asked General Schwarzkopf, said, "Did they spit on you?" He said, "No, sir, they did not spit on me." And he said it in a way that I know what he was saying. he was saying, somebody spit on me, I'm going to hit them right between the damned eyes, and they're not going to do that again. So here again, I'm not inciting riot, but if those people doing the spitting or doing the cussing or doing the harassment, if they went home with 2 black eyes, a busted nose, and a fat lip, they may not do that again.
Well, I have a question, Rick. So the left is selling this theory that the right are the violent ones. The right are the ones that are inciting violence. The right are doing all this bad stuff. But yet they are the ones, their actions are the ones that are causing all of this. They're actually the ones doing it. How do they sell that? How is it that anybody in the American population buys into that and believes it when they're the ones that are actually doing the actions?
It's like Nazis calling the victims Nazis.
Yeah, exactly. How does that work? I just don't comprehend it.
Well, I don't know. I had some kinfolks many years ago that I noticed a pattern. Whatever she accused someone else of doing is what she was doing. And I think that's some kind of a mental illness.
That's called projection.
Yeah, I'm not a psychologist and I can't describe it, but I noticed that pattern. So can we apply that mental illness pattern to the Democrat Party and these activists that accuse Republicans of being activists when they are the activists? So
anyway, thanks for your time. It's been really fun.
Rick,
thanks for calling.
Rick, hold the phone, Rick, just a minute.
Okay.
You're not on a time schedule on this show. So
well, thank you, but I just want to give someone else a chance.
Well, and you are, and I really do appreciate that. But if you've got a good point to make, you make your point.
Thank you.
That's what this show is all about. So,
all right.
Rick, you be careful and don't lose the phone number.
I won't. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Rick. That Rick's always a good caller, and we appreciate all the good callers that we have on this show.
He seems to be able to push your buttons.
Yeah.
Not in a negative way, but he gets all the topics that you want to orate on.
Yeah. Well, it don't take much to to cock my pistol sometimes.
Not this day.
But there is so many things that we should get excited about. We should take note of.
Passionate?
And, we should be passionate about something. Like I say, when Pam Bondi goes to the movie and they surround her and harass her, and then, as she said, 3 big burly guys got up and spit in her face, and why didn't some man in the audience stand up and correct that?
Because then it would be focused on him and they would get away with...
Well, then so be it. If they arrest that guy for punching that fellow in the face, so be it. I'll go pay his bail. Call me collect. I'll go bond him out.
And that's what Trump said, and he got in trouble for that too.
Well,
and
I guess.
But they're willing to put people in there that are willing to take a punch. They're willing they're paying them to take the punch. They're paying them to throw the punch.
They're
willing
paid
to
activists.
spit. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not that they believe in what they're doing. They believe in the almighty dollar they're getting paid.
Well, but if the general public, if the good people, if the freedom-loving Christian Americans don't stand up and retaliate against these paid-for activists, then what's the result?
Well, you got another call. Maybe they'll be able to tell you, and then you got a break.
Yeah, yes, caller. Go ahead on.
Hey, Conn. God bless the United States of America.
Amen.
Donald Trump, and God bless your talk show. This is Lobo 5, Conn. I've waited a long time to call you, but I just got back from vacation. And I got a story I need to share with you, and if it's not in the same vein of what you're just talking about, then I promise I'll never call you again.
Well,
okay?
I think we're safe on that.
We jumped in that old Silverado Chevrolet pickup truck, and we decided to go up into Oregon to see one of our best friends for 20 or 30 years. Almost like family, Conn. I got up into Colorado, and I took a hard left on Interstate 70, I believe is what it was. It cuts right through the center of Denver and goes up through them mountains up into the Eisenhower Tunnel. And I got down on the other side over there, and I decided I needed a little break, and I needed a cup of coffee. And I went in a place, it's called Idaho Springs. You can look at it on the map, and I want to make sure everybody understands about where I'm talking about. Because you see that old Silverado pickup truck? It has a United States Army Airborne Ranger tab on the back of it, because I served with them boys. And my wife is also a retired Master Sergeant herself. You know, my son is a Tech Sergeant at Luke Air Force Base, and my father hit Utah Beach on D-Day. That's 3 generations, Conn, of senior NCOs. But I got over there in them mountains, and there was an individual, I guess because I had that Ranger tab on the side of my truck, and I got a red, white, and blue sign on there that says, all lives matter. But I went in to get that cup of coffee, and I come to walk back out, and somebody put a little note in the handle of my door on that old Silverado pickup, Conn, and as God is my judge, I got pictures. I can show these to you. He said, Colorado is a blue state. We do not like you. Texas is a red state. And he said, go back home. We do not want you here. Hey, Conn, I took that note. It was like a little bit right off the side is one of these little places you can, I don't want to call it a stop and rob, but it was because it was one of those dispensaries for marijuana also. Okay, I didn't realize that when I pulled in there. I probably would have kept going. But he told me I wasn't welcome in his state. You know, I took that piece of paper and I walked out by the pumps. I was looking over, the bed of my truck because I had my 2 brothers, Smith and Wesson, under the front seat. And I was thinking, okay, anybody here want to talk to me? I'm right here because I'll go anywhere, and God bless America of the United States, anywhere and anytime. And what you was just talking about, you see, my wife and I was on vacation, Conn. And it's really good. You see, God takes care of fools like me. Because, like you said, General Schwarzkopf, ain't nobody going to spit on him. Ain't nobody going to do that to me. But nobody in that parking lot would fess up. Nobody. And I thought to myself, this is Colorado. This isn't the Colorado I remember at all. But sure enough, somebody thought they wanted to voice their opinion. But when I stepped to them, Conn, nobody there had anything to say to me.
That's because they're all talk and no do. And
hey, where I come from, right here in the 5 Hills. That's why I say I'm Lobo 5.
Well,
and that's
God bless you and your family, because you and your family is what made America America. Recently, a fellow told me that he didn't like my show because I was too combative. And
yeah.
I said,
no, wait. That's not fair. What he said was there was people who had gone to him that didn't care for your show because it was too combative. He did not say he didn't like your show.
Yeah, one of his
they
customers
put pressure on him.
But my response to him was, them little white crosses in Arlington.
Right.
Well, all them folks under them white crosses were combative. They loved freedom and liberty, and they died defending it. So, if you don't like me being combative, don't listen to the damn show. Change the channel.
Thank you very much.
But I'm
Thank you very much.
I like yourself. I guess they left reverse out when they made me. But I believe what I believe. I say what I think, and I think what I say, and I don't want to encourage any wrongdoing of any kind, but if the guy that wrote that note, if he doesn't have guts enough to confront you, then he never suffers the consequences of his actions. See,
yes, sir.
But if on the other hand, if he stepped up and then, let's see what he's made out of.
Yes, sir.
And
I'll test the middle. I'll test the middle on that, Conn, anywhere, anytime. I've never backed down from anybody. I'm not a tough guy, but I don't back down from nobody.
Well,
And I'll tell you something. This little spot, it had Idaho Springs. You can look on the map. You can see it. And I pray there's a whole bunch of people looking right now. It had 4 gas pumps. It wasn't a Buc-ee's truck stop. It wasn't no, Flying J. This is a little mom and pop shop on the side of the road. And I guess he just decided, or whoever it was, they wanted to do something. But what I couldn't understand is he seen me when I got out of my truck. I'm 60 years old, Con, so my wife's 60. But
Well, you sound like you're 30.
Now, he didn't want to leave a note. Ma'am, I'm not a tough man. I'm just an old beat-up airborne ranger. But I'll guarantee you one thing. The best thing he ever done in his life was not confront me. And I'm not a tough guy, Con, in any way, shape, or form.
Well, you're not a tough guy, but you're a man's man. You're not and I've never met you, but I don't have to meet you to know that you're not a girly man. You're a man's man. And
there's Colorado, somebody there, they think they're so far. See, they get on Facebook and all this other stuff, and they post up all this stuff. Man, face to face to do that.
Well,
but you see, when it comes down to it, hey, man, they yell it.
Well, and if you stand up to him and you get in trouble for it, call me and I'll make you bond.
we gotta go to a break.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, we gotta go to a break.
Take my punishment, Con. Because I'll whoop him, I guarantee it.
Well, if you're around here and they're going to whoop you, they got to whoop both of us. So
yes, sir.
For whatever that's worth.
God bless America, Con. Thank you for letting me talk, sir.
You are more than welcome. You call back again. And right now we have got to go pay a bill, so y'all hang in there. We'll be right back. Okay, we're going to dedicate this song right here to my last caller. Okay, I got a caller.
They hung
Oh,
up.
okay. No, the caller that was the ex-Army Ranger. That song by Merle Haggard.
Lobo 5.
Yeah, we're gonna dedicate that to myself and to the ex-Army Ranger. When you're cussing America, you're walking on the wrong side of me and him both. And there's several of us. Several of our callers here feel the same way. God bless them. We need people to defend America and our traditional values, our Judeo-Christian way of life here. We need people that will stand up and defend it, because we're losing it, folks. We are losing America as we speak because no one wants to defend it. Well, some of us do. I'll take that back. There's a lot of people that want to defend America. I think they just don't have the opportunity. And that's why we have this call-in show called Common Sense with Conn. If you want to say something to defend America and our way of life, our republic, you pick up the phone and call 254-773-1400.
We welcome your opinions.
That's what this show is all about. And I think we're down to 1 minute until the break.
We got a hard break, top of the hour.
1 hour is gone. You have got to be kidding me. This has got to be the fastest 2 hours in radio right here. At any rate,
that's because you talk too much.
I guess I do. My callers get me all stirred up and excited, and I don't know when to shut up, I guess. At any rate, if you out there know of anyone who would like to sponsor this show, the number to
254
254
300 1885.
Yeah, 300 1885. And I think we have got to go to a break. And y'all hang in. We'll be right back after the top of the hour. Okay, folks, here we are back on the Common Sense with Conn show. Just having a good time today. You know, time flies when you're having fun, I guess, and I really have enjoyed the show so far today, and I'm sure I will continue to enjoy it, because I'm sure there's some more patriotic, freedom-loving Americans out there that want to try to help defend freedom, and that's what this show is all about. And if you don't like trying to defend freedom, don't listen. But that's what I'm going to do. I believe in the American way of life. I believe in traditional values. Maybe my beliefs are different to some other folks. I don't know. I can't help it. But I'm really proud to be an American. I am a proud American, a proud Southerner, and a proud Texan. And I don't apologize for any of that. But I think that we had better start standing up for freedom and American values.
I think we got a caller.
Oh, I think we got a caller. Okay, I'll quit preaching long enough to take this call. Yes, caller, go ahead.
No, Don, you can preach as long as you like.
Oh.
And I feel like you do, and I'm telling you something. I honestly believe that conditions in this country are worse today than they were last week from your program. What I mean by that is, like, Maxine Waters, the latest thing that's come out of her mouth, these talking heads on the national propaganda channels, and the death threats against Trump. which you would think that the Secret Service would have arrested these people, put them in jail. The encouragement out of a lot of people of notoriety, not only like De Niro cussing at Trump, but actually others who are calling for his harm, his death.
Well, let me inject something, Ed, just briefly. What do I keep saying? When you reward bad behavior, what the hell do you expect to get more of? If they can threaten Donald Trump and not suffer the consequences, what do we expect to get more of? That's pretty simple.
They need to be arrested.
Yes.
I just don't understand it.
You can't go around threatening people and not be arrested. They have to be arrested for their threats when they are threats. They're threats against a human being and threats against the presidency. And I honestly believe that we're involved in the Civil War now because this is what we have. When you're calling for revolt and sedition, that's war.
Yes, I agree. And I think that we on the defending side need to wake up to the position we're in. This is war. This is a battle. And I keep repeating, I guess, but I'm like Stonewall Jackson. Pull that saber out and throw away the scabbard.
Well, they threw the first punch. Well, in this case, lots of punches before we have ever stepped up into the ring for anything.
But we need to decide, as you say, Ed, that we are in war. We're in a battle. And we had better get ready to fight. We better start fighting because we are in a battle.
Yes, but legally, not violently. They're going to be the violent ones.
And it doesn't matter who the person is. If they're elected positions, if they're Maxine Waters, or if they're Obama behind the scenes undermining this presidency, they need to be arrested and brought to justice.
Yes, they need to suffer the consequences of their actions. If I go down here and walk into a store and rob it, if they allow me to go free and keep the money, then why won't I just continue to do that? Well, any criminal activity, if they do not suffer the consequences of their actions, then what do you expect them to keep doing? And what do you expect the people listening? What do you expect the people listening to Maxine Waters to do? She is encouraging this kind of thing, and something else I say because I think people don't understand it. The greatest teaching aid known to mankind is what? It's example. So the example that Maxine Waters and others like that, the example they set is growing. It's catching on. Other people are doing it.
It's gasoline.
Yeah, it's throwing gas on the fire. And the only way I think of to stop it, and here again, I'm not trying to incite wrongdoing, but some of these folks need to go home with a fat lip and a busted nose.
Well, this side of the aisle needs to start applying consequences. We have legal consequences that could be applied, and they're not applying them at all.
Yeah, like I said a while ago about General Schwarzkopf, if he had been in that theater where Pam Bondi was, and that guy acted like that, what do you think General Schwarzkopf would have done? I'll guarantee dadgum to you he would have stood up and stopped that mess. How can we other men do any less than that?
You're right about that. And there's newscasters on TV that are calling for sedition. They're calling for revolution. These people are Marxists. They are communists. And I'm going to say that the entire Democratic Party should be called the Communist Party.
I said that a long time ago. Yeah.
And many years ago, when we were in Montana, I confronted Pat Williams, a then congressman. He was speaking to a group of people, and I walked up to him and I said, Congressman Williams, when is the Democratic Party going to be forthright and honest and change their name to the Communist Party? And he turned his back on me.
Well, but that's an honest statement, Ed. When are they going to admit what they are? When are they going to admit that, like Barack Obama, they want to fundamentally change America? In other words, they want to destroy America and rebuild it in their own image. So when are we freedom-loving Americans going to face the truth? They are the enemy. If we don't confront the enemy is going to take over.
That's right. That's exactly it. And we need to, through your program, this is a great vocal point. You're reaching a lot of people. And you're probably reaching legislators as well, motivating them to take some action. Let them and the good attorneys bring charges against these people. Bring them to justice.
Yeah, I keep saying they have to suffer the consequences of their actions. If they don't, they'll just keep doing it and get worse. So we need to understand that you're right, Ed, this is war. This is a battle. And we need to understand that we are in the battle. We can either fight to win or accept defeat.
Well, and there's the new movie that's coming out on August the 3rd, The Death of a Nation. And boy, people need to go see it. They need to wake up. These younger generations need to go see it. They need to wake up. They need to become educated. And it's powerful. I saw the trailer for it last night. I put it on the Facebook page. It is very powerful and very true.
Well, Ed, it's the reason I'm reading these 10 goals of the Communist Party, because what scares me is, I don't scare very easy, but what scares me is some of these rules of the Communist Party have already taken place. They have already accomplished this.
Several of them.
Like, let me real quick read the 8th rule in this list. Foment unnecessary strikes in vital industries, encourage civil disorder, and foster a lenient and soft attitude on the part of government toward disorders.
Amen.
When the Black Lives Matter burned up Ferguson, Missouri, what did the government do? Not a damn thing. They let them loot and riot and burn down
their own communities.
Well, what did that encourage them to do more of? Now, if some of those folks had gone to jail for several years, they might not do it again.
And they did arrest him, and then they turned him loose.
Yeah.
And look what happened to Sarah Huckabee when she got ran out of that restaurant, walked across the street to another restaurant, and the owners of the restaurant chased her across the street to harass her even more.
She went home. She went home. Her family, the rest of her family, went across the street. So they weren't even after her. They went after her family.
Well, and somebody asked me one time, he said he was in a park in Washington State somewhere, and some wild-eyed guy came up and he said, "I'm going to kill you and your family and burn your house down." He said, "What would you do if somebody said that to you?"
Careful what you say now.
Yeah, shut up, Conn.
Exactly.
I won't go on with that story, but there are several people out here that I know. You don't walk up and tell them you're going to kill him and his family. You won't make it home for supper. Now,
that's a threat. That is a threat.
That's a threat, and I know several folks. Me, I'm just a peace-loving man. I would never respond to something like that, But I do have some friends that you threaten their family, and you're not going to make it home.
Just those of you, since this is radio, my eyes got the size of dinner plate when he said that.
Well,
Black guns matter, and remember the Alamo.
There you go.
Thanks for calling in, Ed.
Be careful out there, Ed.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Okay.
Phone lines are open.
Ed is going to come down to the state of Texas here one of these days, and we might even have him on the show. So y'all might get to hear him in person one of these days.
You mean give him a license to speak?
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a license to speak, and I'll be willing to bail him out of jail if he says too much and they come pick him up.
Well, it's really it's always astonishes me how many people we have from outside the country and across the country that follow you on the Facebook page and that listen to the show over the internet. So
that really does surprise me. I keep in mind now that I am someone who is very high tech impaired. I'm not a high tech kind of a guy. So if if people are listening to this program in some foreign land, I cannot comprehend that. I can't believe that.
Well, if they're listening to you in a foreign land, they have no idea what you're saying because you're an old hick.
Yeah, I guess
Just
they
saying.
they don't understand us old Southern boys anyway.
Well, there's we picked up this last month a ton of Asians from several different countries. That I ran an article for you, and that brought a bunch of people in to look at the page, and they liked the page and signed up to be followers, and so they're now listening to you. And I'm just thinking, how does this translate?
Well,
how does older Southern male translate?
You may have to translate because some folks like us say, put your coat over there in the corner. How do you spell over?
Yeah.
Well,
and then we have Southern sarcasm on my end, so.
Yeah, but no joke. Sometimes it's hard to understand Southern conversation.
And you got another call.
Yeah, I have been in other states and made statements, and they just not understand what I'm talking about. But I had a fella catch a pretty good sized fish, and he was showing us that fish, and it's a big old fish. And I said, well, yeah, it's okay, but it'll do till a big one gets here. And the guy looked at me like, he don't understand Southern talk, and
he didn't appreciate your sense of humor.
He did not appreciate my humor.
Well, maybe this caller will.
Yeah, we got a caller here. Go ahead, caller.
Mr. Conn, thank you for continuing to spread a leadership role across a receptive audience that I'm sure does respond to the messages that you're giving. I, however, differ from your approach in looking at all of these changes and the desperation, I think, that is being voiced by the demonstrators because they're becoming more powerless all the time.
I hope you're right.
I think that the power of the vote was shown in the presidential election. And I think that rather than talking about what things should be done, part of the emphasis of what should be in the works right now is register voters. You talked about the lady in New York City that upseated the standing congressman. How did she do it? It was documented that she probably knocked on 25,000 doors and solicited votes to go ahead and support her. I mean, it was Lincoln who said, find them and vote them. And I think that it's one thing to sit back and talk about what we want to see happen, but I think that there's a lot of difference about actually making it happen.
No, I could not.
Maxine Waters has a very viable person who's competing against her in the election coming up by the name of Omar Navarro. I have sent money to Omar Navarro's campaign, and I expect to send more in the future because my method of going ahead and seeing Maxine taken down is not in the streets, but in the voting box. And I think that, this country is made up of three groups, in my mind. There are the people who cannot be budged from the backing of Trump. And I think that you have seen that demonstrated by no matter what false news is thrown out there, there has not been a peel back of the people who solidly are there for him. There is the fringe that is on the other end that is so convinced of what they are doing that in my mind, they have a religion. And this is a religious war that we are in.
Amen.
But there's a lot of people in the middle.
I could not agree more. It has become a cult, if you will, or a religion, if you will. And I don't understand that, except to say that maybe your mind is easily influenced if you are a member of the anti-Trump cult.
Absolutely, but it is the swing votes in the middle that learn by example of what perhaps they don't want to be part of.
Well, let me give you a real brief example of what you're saying, and I agree with you totally. In Montana years ago, a group of us ran a newcomer against a 4 or 5 term incumbent, and he assumed that we could not win, but we beat him hands down. But the way we beat him was we went to the streets. We passed out small cards, we hit the bricks, and we beat that sucker. So exactly what you're saying, it's the boots on the ground that will stand up and be counted and beat this thing that we're fighting. So I could not agree more.
That is the big void that I'm not hearing. I hear a lot of outrage. I hear a lot of, conviction that our way of life is good, but simply by itself. If you don't work at it, it doesn't happen. I'm old enough to have been at Watts 1 and Watts 2, and when they burned down Washington and Baltimore, and I will tell you that the damage that was done was strictly in the areas where there was a popular movement to go ahead and rebel. It didn't hit the outskirts because the people out there were too well armed. And so all they did was hurt themselves. And the businessmen in that area came back out of that, and because they didn't have the insurance, they didn't have everything else, things quieted down for a long time.
Well, if you
all of a sudden they found out violence doesn't work unless you have the total people behind you.
If you remember the L.A. riots, there was one business that was not looted and burned, and that was a business owned by, I think they were Vietnamese or Koreans or something, but they stood, I think, on top of that building with a, I don't know if it was AR-15 or shotgun, whatever it was.
Yeah, I was there.
They were armed, and they did not burn or loot that building. So
I understand.
Is there a lesson for us in that whole situation?
Well, there are over a million concealed carried weapon people in Texas, and I think that you have to look toward the realization in this country that the cops may be minutes away, but a well-directed bullet travels over 600 feet per second, and it just I think that lesson is there for the thinking people.
Well, and we need to understand that the first one at the scene of a crime is who? It's the bad guy and the victim. Now, if the victim is armed, there may not be a bad situation, or it might end very, very quickly. So the answer to this is not abolishing guns, it's abolishing criminals.
Well, defense of yourself and your family should still remain the, absolutely top priority. How you go about doing that by surrounding yourself with government or with arms or whatever, that to me is right up there with water and shelter and everything else, because otherwise you belong to somebody else or you are dead. So I'm going to shut up and go away, but I think the one thing that I would just request of everybody who listens to your program, and that is find out who needs a ride to the polls. How many, relatives, friends in different parts of the country that they can encourage to make sure that they actually put their boots on the ground, go on out there, and come the time of election, that they have a list of 15 or 20 people that they will get to the polls. Because if that doesn't happen, then I think you're going to watch all the things that you've been talking about go from bad to worse.
Now, I have a request for you, sir. You say you're going to shut up and go away. My request is don't go too far and don't lose this phone number. because we need more people just like you.
Well, you're too kind, but I think that we have a very, very unique country, and I think that there has been nothing like it in the past, and I think that it's worth dying for.
Well,
but
and
I think that the core part of it is that unless you have a centralized document to rally around, and I don't think that you can get any better than the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
No, but
so I think that has got to remain in place.
Well, this Constitution, this country, this freedom, this liberty that we have, though, reminds me of recently I got up and went in to take a shower. I turned on the hydrant. There was no hot water. There was no water. And it was a real culture shock when you have no water. But it's the old saying, you never miss the water till the well goes dry. And that's the way this country is going to be. We're not going to miss the Constitution or the freedoms that we have until we don't have them. And then, unlike the water, I was able to replace the well pump and get water back. But when you lose the Constitution and our freedom in this country, you're not going to get it back. So
as much as I detest Rahm Emanuel, I really think his comment about no crisis should ever go, unmined for opportunity.
Yeah.
I think you did something about your no water situation, and I think that we have a opportunity here with all the violence and with all the threats and everything else to turn a lemon into lemonade. But I think that it's going to require doing this in a way that sticks. And I think that, as I say, if you don't defend the ballot box, as Hillary found out in the last presidential election, then I think that you're in trouble.
May I ask you what your first name is?
No.
Okay.
Well,
I appreciate your asking. Just please have a good day and keep spreading the word.
Please call back.
We really enjoy your call, and do please call back, because you demonstrate a lot of just plain old common sense. And
well, that's what you are spreading, and when you're leading the way, it's very easy to have people who feel the same way you are, but have been intimidated because they are supposed to be gracious hosts to everybody else's indiscretions or their rudeness or whatever. But the one thing that I think has been forgotten or has not been taught or is not looked on and responded to by the hosts is that you have to be a good guest if you are not in the majority or you are not in the position of being the host. And I think that that servitude in this country, I think, is eroding to the point that people who really have put up with a lot are tired of it. And, it is time just to quietly go ahead and pull it back. But do so, hopefully, in as peaceful a method as possible. But I will tell you that the one thing you really don't want to do to this country, and that is take the common person and turn them into a soldier.
Right.
I think that there are many, many, many countries in this world that have viewed with horror what happens when the Americans all of a sudden stop being peaceful, game-loving people and all of a sudden turn into soldiers.
That is such a true statement. A lot of people like to fantasize and about war or revolution or disobedience and stuff like that. And boy, that sounds good. But when you look down and see your son with a hole in his belly with the red stuff running out, that's not going to be very romantic. And I hope that you and I never see that. But you're right. If the good people keep backing up, that's what comes next. And I don't want to see it, but it's coming.
I'm retired military, and I have been there and done that. And as I say, coming out of retirement, just like your ex-ranger or retired ranger or whatever, is something that nobody who's ever been there relishes, but they certainly are capable of it. Have a great day, and thank you again for what you do.
Well,
Thank you for calling in.
and thank you for calling in. And don't lose this phone number. We need you to call in again.
We're going for a
and
break.
right now we have got to go to a break and try to pay a few bills. So y'all hang in. We'll be right back. Is that all?
That's it.
Dang.
You ready?
Okay, I need to thank Vicki for bringing that song to us. It sure is appropriate for what we're talking about today. And that is, we freedom-loving Americans need to not back down. We need to stand our ground. You know, it's an old country music song, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Well, if we don't stand our ground, like this song here says, we're going to lose the ground. We're going to lose what we're standing for if we don't stand up and be counted for freedom and liberty and the American way of life. You know, to those folks who think they want democratic socialism, maybe they ought to take maybe a vacation of about a year and move to Cuba. They could
try it out.
Yeah, they could learn about democratic socialism. They think it's so great. Let them go over there and try it for a while. You know, they can get into their 1949 Ford car and drive around town if it still runs. They can enjoy the Democrat socialist way of life that they have in Cuba. And they have it in other countries as well. It never has been very successful, but...
well, I got 3 points I want to put out there and then let you go back to town on the stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the public says 55% see I can't talk now. Democracy is weak. 68% see it getting weaker. Then the Mark Penn poll, 80 to 84% oppose sanctuary cities and want illegal aliens turned over to the authorities. And Mark Penn is the former Hillary Clinton senior campaign advisor. So just FYI on that. And then the guy who is running for the next president of Mexico, he is assuring all his fellow Mexicans that if he wins, that they have the human right in quotes, to enter the United States as they please, and it is an innate privilege that he promises that he will defend. Now, what does that mean? And that's right here in our backyard. So we better be paying attention.
Well, we had better wake up. What we better do. There are those within this country. In fact, the demonstrators in Washington, D.C., I think it was, where they arrested 600 of them, they were chanting what? They were chanting, "No wall, no borders." What do you think is going to happen to America if there's no border? What, seriously, folks, wake up and smell the coffee. What do you think is...
We won't be a country.
We won't be a country. You cannot be a country if you don't have borders, if you don't have control over who comes and leaves in this country.
Okay, it's real simple. You have a river, it has borders, it has shores. We don't have any shores. We can't contain the water. We can't keep things out. I just don't understand.
My frustration is some of the answers to our problems are so utterly simple. They are so simple that we can't figure it out. We are complicating ourselves with some of these very learned explanations of what we should do, produced by maybe some PhD holding super smart. Someone said once that in the last days man will confound himself with his own intelligence.
I believe it.
And I believe those days are here.
It's just like you said, that you take that $650 million that we give in aid to Mexico, cut them off, increase the tariffs, make life absolutely miserable for them until they stop allowing people over our borders, okay? Or have them help build the wall, whatever it is, but get it stopped, close down their highway from South America into the United States. And then once they do that, then we can go back to assisting them again.
Well, exactly. I was just telling Tina this morning, we give Mexico, I think I'm right, $650 million a year in foreign aid. Why don't we just send them a message that says you don't get any more foreign aid until you stop being a highway for immigrants to come from Honduras, Guatemala, all those places come right through your country into Texas. If you don't stop that, you don't get any more $650 million a year.
But you're not the only one saying that now. You're the first one I heard, but you're not the only one. I heard it on like Sean Hannity's show, or I think it was the guest host from yesterday. It was either someone that called in or it was him that said it.
Well, I think sometimes, and I won't take credit for that idea, but sometimes it takes someone like this show to bring up a point, and other people say, "Oh, I never thought about that."
It's the simple stuff.
It's really simple, and so many answers to our problems are so simple.
We're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot there. I mean, really.
Well, we really are, and and sometimes it sounds like I'm knocking education, and I don't mean to do that, but
Eric, do we have a call?
some of the smartest people I ever met
You have the phone off the hook.
were college educated. Some of the dumbest people I ever met were college educated. But the smartest people I ever met were those who had a college degree coupled with some life experiences.
We need to check to see if we have a caller. Caller, are you there? Caller? No, I guess they hung up.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Caller,
Call back.
if you were holding, call back in, and at any rate,
The line's open now.
I'm just what I'm referring to about education. I saw Mark Levin introduce a man on his show the other night, and he started reading the degrees that this man has, and he had a list of degrees 4 foot long.
Kind of like a rap sheet.
Yeah, man, he had
You got a caller again.
2 bachelor's degrees from this college and 4 from that one over there, and a PhD from this one over here.
How do you have time to have a real life and have real life experiences? That's what I want to know.
Well, exactly. He has had to have spent his life in a university setting. What does he know about the real world that we live in?
Well, let's take this
Not
call before we
nothing.
lose him again.
Yeah, let's take this caller here. Yes, caller, go ahead.
Hey, Conn, it's Joe from Temple.
Yes, sir.
I wish I could report on the Veterans Project, but I've been tied up at the Knights of Columbus for the last 3 days. We've had the Meredith Dunbar 50th reunion out there, and they've been having a good time. Great to see those people get together. Really, I just wanted to give you a comment. A couple of minutes ago, before the last session, you said you were wondering why people all over, some from far away, are listening to you. And I can describe it in one word, and that's truth. You tell the truth. You don't sugarcoat it. You don't hide it. You just put it out there. And there are still people in this country that appreciate hearing the truth, and I'm definitely one of them. And hopefully, as we progress and as we move forward, more people will recognize that fact, and maybe we can get this thing turned around again.
Well, thank you, Joe. I'm going to take that as a compliment. And I'm sure that's how you meant it. But and that is exactly what I try to make this show about. This show is not about political correctness. It's not about diversity. It's not about inclusiveness. It's not about all those fine left-wing terms. It's just about a simple thing called truth.
Bare bones.
Absolutely.
One of the admonitions we got from the good Lord was you're not supposed to lie. And the lie has become more popular, and I noticed in a lot in politics, truth means nothing. If the lie suits them better, that's what they do. And I am really concerned about the lack of value of truth. So I really do appreciate your comment, Joe.
And Joe, I'm glad you called because you left us a great segue into the fact that we are into our fundraising point of the show right now, where we've got about 2 weeks to come up with the rest of the sponsors and keep the show on the air. And so if you believe in truth, you want to see this show continue on and help people comprehend and everything that's going on, we would appreciate you giving us a call at 254-300-1885. That's 300-1885. and we will get with you and take your sponsorship. You want to do it silently, we understand. If you want to advertise your business, by all means, we'd be happy to do that for you. And we
Well,
got to go to
I
break.
appreciate you guys, and I will help in any way I can. So
We greatly
just
appreciate
continue
that.
to fight and keep pushing forward.
Thank
Well,
you, Joe.
and Joe, any way now that we can help y'all, if you need some more volunteers or something, well,
Yeah, we'll put the call out.
yeah, you feel free to come on this show and ask for them, and you'll be welcome.
Well, we got to go to break.
Yeah, we got to go break, and y'all hang in there. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
James.
James?
Yes, sir.
Okay, folks, we're back on the air. Common Sense with Conn. Hate to break into that good old song about Arlington, but I guess we got to go on with this here show. But that song demonstrates, how many people have given everything. Anyway, I need to read this advertisement for Trey's auction service. They're going to have a huge Waco estate sale, and it's live. It's either live or online, and it's taking place right now as we speak. It's June the 30th, and it's in Waco. It's an estate sale, and if you would like to go to that sale and buy something, you might better get on over there. Call Trey at 254-718-5120. That's 254-718-5120.
What's the name of the company again?
That's Central Texas Auction Service.
So you can look them up online, and I bet you they have information there about the sale.
Yeah, you
Central
can look
Texas
them up online. CentralTexasAuctions.com. Now, keep in mind, they're going to have another one in Belton, real estate and contents auction. That's going to be a big one. You might better write this down on your calendar. It's on July the 28th at 9 a.m. You can preview it the day before from 4 until 6 p.m. And it's going to be located at 818 Benchmark Trail in Belton. That's 818 Benchmark Trail in Belton. They're talking about a 2-story, 4-bedroom house, 2-bath house, a huge backyard, mature big trees, and a great neighborhood.
We'll put all this information on our Facebook page for you, too.
Yeah, we'll put it out there. And keep in mind the phone number to call to find out, 254-718-5120. Talk to old Trey, and he'll tell you all about it. Okay, now we're going to have to talk to old James and see what he got to say on the telephone. Yeah, James, go ahead on.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing today?
Well, we're doing all right.
Glad to hear it. I love your show. Just moved up to Temple a couple of years ago from Austin. Grateful every day that I did. Part of the reason, to answer part of your question as to why it seems like nobody's standing up, as long as these folks have protected confrontation, it's always going to seem like nobody is standing up or nobody's saying the right thing. But I can assure you, sir, that people are standing up, people are saying things, conversations are being done. But, you know, as long as they've got protected confrontation, it's going to seem like that. As long as these guys that are out there screaming this socialist nonsense have the police standing in front of them, until, you know, and that's the one thing you don't want to see. Well, because the minute that the police decide to step aside and say, hey, you know what, y'all need to handle this yourselves, then, yeah, that's a situation nobody wants. Well, so we're still trying to maintain it civilly.
Well, and, you know, that's why I say I do not want to encourage civil disobedience on either side. But if the left keeps pushing this activist agenda, what are the results going to be?
It's going to be something that nobody wants to see. It's like a podcast of a gentleman who spent 12 years in the Secret Service. I listen to his podcast every day. You may have seen him on Mr. Levin's show. You're poking at a bear you don't want to poke at.
Oh, it's Dan.
And as long as you know, as long as you're outside of that cage, it's all fine and dandy. You're going to keep poking at it, and what are you going to do when that cage opens up?
Yeah.
What are you going to do when that zookeeper steps away? It's something you are not prepared for.
You know, it's like I keep saying about a bully. You know, you've only got two choices. You can run from him or you can run at him.
Yes, sir.
Well, if the activists continue to push, they're going to find somebody that's going to run at them instead of from them.
James, we got about 30 seconds, 20 seconds. Just wanted to let you know we didn't want to just cut you off.
No, ma'am. I understand.
Yeah, just it's amazing how fast this 2 hours goes. But
please call us next week.
Y'all have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Yeah, don't forget the phone number, James. Call us back. Okay, I think that's the end of the show, folks, for today. Y'all stay tuned next Saturday, and we'll do this again.